Friday, October 13th. Attempts by German submarines to penetrate British ports continue. U-40, commanded by Wolfgang Barton, is sunk when it hits a mine upon trying to enter the port of Dover. Only 3 crew members survive. Meanwhile, U-47, commanded by Günther Prien, taking advantage of high tide, skillfully approaches the British naval base at Scapa Flow and manages to slip through the defenses carried by a current of 7 knots. In the United States, celebrity aviator Charles Lindbergh shows his sympathies for the Nazi regime and makes a radio broadcast in favor of keeping America out of the war. In Western Europe, the phony war continues with skirmishes between German and French troops near the Moselle River. The French have managed to blow up 3 bridges over the Rhine. For its part, the Finnish government has rejected Soviet territorial demands and orders a general mobilization of reserves, convinced an attack is imminent. Saturday, October 14th. The German submarine U-47, captained by Günther Prien, which has managed to enter the British naval base at Scapa Flow, fires 2 torpedoes at the aircraft carrier Pegasus, which is mistaken for the battleship Repulse. At first, the men at the base think it is an accident. A few minutes later, Prien fires 3 torpedoes at the battleship Royal Oak, which goes down with 833 men on board. All is confusion at the British base until they realize they have been attacked by a German submarine. Ships set off in pursuit of U-47, which manages to avoid the depth charges and gets away at full steam. In France, General Maurice Gamelin, French commander-in-chief, warns of an imminent German attack in Western Europe. The British War Cabinet, up to date with this information, decides to not bomb German cities until the Luftwaffe begins attacks on Western countries. Sunday, October 15th. The governments of Finland and the Soviet Union are at loggerheads, and tension is running high. Meanwhile, Germany and Estonia sign an agreement on the transfer of ethnic Germans from Estonia to the Third Reich, which affects some 14,000 people. In Britain, Winston Churchill is forced to recognize the bravery and skill of Günther Prien, the commander of U-47, in his action at Scapa Flow. He orders the home fleet to be transferred to the base at Loch Ewe, while the defenses at Scapa Flow are improved. The relentless activities of the U-boats prevent British attempts at a blockade of Germany. Having lost 146 ships since the start of the conflict, Churchill complains of the lack of experienced men in submarine warfare. On the Western Front, the Wehrmacht begin preparations for invasion, concentrating large contingents of troops behind the Westwall, the German defensive wall, and stepping up reconnaissance activity on land and in the air. Monday, October 16th. The German Army High Command, OKW, officially announces the end of the Wehrmacht's operations in Poland. Meanwhile, SS forces continue executing people and expelling thousands of Poles from the occupied cities. On the Franco-German border, Wehrmacht forces launch an attack against the French army along a 15-kilometer front in the Saar region. The French offer little resistance and withdraw to their own territory, although they do manage to destroy 20 German tanks and inflict a significant number of losses on the German attackers. The Luftwaffe carries out its first attack on mainland Britain. 9 Junker Ju-88 bombers, the German Air Force's most versatile bombers, attack Royal Navy ships at Rosyth on the Firth of Forth in Scotland, causing damage to the cruisers HMS Edinburgh and HMS Southampton, and the destroyer HMS Mohawk. RAF Spitfires are scrabbled to see off 9 enemy bombers. Meanwhile, other German squadrons begin dropping the first Mk1 magnetic mines by parachute around the ports and estuaries of Britain. This secret weapon of the Nazis, as Churchill called it, led to the sinking of 500,000 tons of British shipping within a few weeks. Tuesday, October 17th. Gunther Prien and the crew of U-47 receive a hero's welcome upon arrival at the naval base of Wilhelmshaven, where they are met by Admiral Erich Raeder and the head of the U-Boot-Waffe, Karl Donitz, among others. Hitler decrees the transfer of power in the occupied territories from the army to the new civilian governors of the Nazi Party, Hans Frank, Albert Forster, and Arthur Grieser. The Reich cabinet places the SS forces outside the legal jurisdiction of the Wehrmacht. SS actions can only be judged by the SS. Heinrich Himmler retains the power to murder at will and turn the populations of the occupied territories into slaves, despite the fact that General Wilhelm Keitel, the head of the OKW, among others, criticizes his methods, which he considers incompatible with military traditions. 4 German Junker J-88 bombers carry out a raid on the British naval base at Scapa Flow, causing minor damage to the training battleship Iron Duke, while the placing of mines in British estuaries continues. The Turkish foreign minister leaves Moscow without agreement on a defense treaty, which Stalin is interested in signing, but with expressions of mutual goodwill on both sides. Turkey prefers to maintain friendly relations with the Soviets while avoiding any conflict with the Western powers. Wednesday, October 18th. Hitler signs an order authorizing German submarines to attack passenger ships sailing in convoy or without lights. General Archibald Wavell, the British commander-in-chief in the Middle East, and General Maxime Weygand, the French commander in the region, traveled to Ankara for talks with the Turks about a treaty of mutual assistance, which they will sign for a period of 15 years. Britain, France, and Turkey promised to help each other, except if Turkey comes into conflict with the Soviet Union. In Stockholm, meanwhile, Finnish leaders meet with the kings of Sweden, Denmark, and Norway to try to get their support in the event of an invasion by the Soviet Union. Hitler has already informed the Swedish government that Germany will remain neutral in any war between Finland and the Soviet Union, although he admits to Göring that he is concerned about the territorial ambitions of the Soviet leader. In Poland, the large-scale displacement of people from one area to another has begun. In the east of the country, German descendants are sent to the Nazi-occupied West, while Jews from all regions are sent to concentration camps. Thursday, October 19th. General Franz Halder, the Chief of General Staff of the OKH Army High Command, presents to the staff of the OKW High Command of the Armed Forces the first draft of Case Yellow, Fall Gelb, the planned conquest of Western Europe. The plan, in part based on the First World War Schlieffen Plan, envisages an attack through the Low Countries while defending the border with France. Considering it ineffective, Hitler rejects it. Hermann Göring, charged with the economic reconstruction of the occupied areas, orders the stripping of those raw materials and economic resources which are not absolutely necessary for the meager maintenance of the naked existence of the population. Meanwhile, the Germans have established a Jewish ghetto in Lublin in Poland. Thousands of Jews, deported from other towns and cities, arrive by train under the watchful eyes of the SS.